how are you today? Thanks for tuning in to Stampin' with Jilly. I have another project to make with the Forever Blossom stamp set, and I'm doing it as a series of 3. This series is focusing on, somebody's talking to me, sorry. Parisian Beauty and Forever Blossom. Yesterday's was just using Forever Blossom. Today is using a little bit of both, mostly Forever Blossom. But look at this card, isn't it beautiful? And I found this on Pinterest. Pretty Papers cards. Thank you for sharing. What do you think? Isn't that beautiful? Are you curious about this background? I'll show you how to do that. And we'll use silver embossing powder and the Parisian dies and the Forever Blossom dies. Okay, should we get started? So here I have some of the papers we will use. That's going to be die cut the flowers, do the texture and the white crafting on there. We'll be using the new blue plate. Most of the Stampin' Up! Products coming out for the upcoming new, what are they calling it? The cut and emboss machine. I guess it no longer will be called Big Shot. But they have us using the blue plate. So I have some old folders and some new folders, some super old folders, and I get confused. Which plate do I use? So I put it, which plate I use at the top. Some of them say clear plate, some say 2 clear plates. And then, since I had the label maker out, might as well put the name of the embossing folder. And that makes it really easy when they're in their little box flipping through. Easy to find it. Okay, back on task. I think what stands out, well, everything, it's a beautiful card, is this background, which is really unique. Okay, so we talked about the blue plate. That could go over here. And we're going to use these little strips of paper for the words. That will be next. That's for the inside. This is for the texturing. We'll stamp the flowers. Cut them out using the Big Shot. And this one, I didn't want it to shift at all, so I put a little washi tape on the die to hold it in place. This die, can you see how that's, let me see, can you see the little sparkle on that? The script writing is in silver foil. And this is stitched shape dies. And that is what we'll do, this part right here. See the little stitching? Okay, and then the silver foil is for the silver foil here. And we'll be using this die. I think this is my favorite of all times. This little die. Aren't those swooshes fun? I should wait until I need it, but I can't stand it. I'll show you. Then I won't show you later. Okay, that's done on the silver foil paper. And to get it out of there, it's really delicate. It's so pretty. I should pull out my picker-upper tool because it has a pokey on one end of it. Okay, see it coming out of there? Look how delicate that is. Can we put this on everything somehow? It's coming out of there. And I could pull it all up, but I don't want to mess up the shape of this swoosh. Okay. Here it is. Look at that. Isn't it pretty? See how delicate it is? Then the problem is, how do you glue it down? I'll probably put glue on the underside right here, because there's like a bunch of silver right here and maybe here. And then if necessary, I'll glue down some of these swooshes, the swirls, Or maybe not. I kind of like them poking up because it makes it, you could see how pretty it is then. Okay, so that's the swirl. We'll use that in a few minutes. So on to the texture of this paper, and I put a little color. So that's using craft white ink and a sponge onto your embossing folder. And you could tell that I've already soiled it a bit. And if you do this, you could run it underneath the kitchen sink and the water will just rinse out. Some people who like it 100% clean, they take a toothbrush and a little mild dish soap and just scrub it, and you can get it out of the corners. So to do this, I'll keep this underneath because I think you could see it a little bit better. I'm using just a sponge, picking up some white craft ink. This is really pretty if you do it and then put embossing powder on it, because the craft ink will hold the powder, and then heat it. Oh, it's so pretty. Also, if I were to put navy ink on here, it would make the low areas just look a bit deeper. So when you go to do this at home, you'll open it up and you'll probably be saying, now which side do I put the ink on? And ask yourself, do you want the ink on the high areas? Because I could feel that this is where the bumps are. Or do you want the ink in the valleys, the low area? And I'm choosing to put them as the background. Okay, so to do that, take this, and you don't want it really heavy. You don't want it in all the cracks. You just want it kind of skimming over the top. And yeah, some places will be darker than others, which is fine because it's supposed to look really random. Okay, so that's enough. Just a little bit. And I had some ink on it from last time I used it. And so I'm going to put this back behind so hopefully you could see better. When I place it on here, you could just place it anywhere, but I like the pattern, how it's repeating, so I'm going to try to center it somewhat, looking at the two swirls right here. So I'll put it right there. Ooh, looks like I have some ink on it. I guess it doesn't matter, it's going to get more ink on it. Okay, so I'll set it right like that. And can you tell how it's going to turn out? Oh, and I certainly didn't get that centered. But that's okay, it's just a random pattern. Okay, so I'm going to run that through the Big Shot. Can you hear me cranking? Cranking away. Voila, now it's done. Isn't that pretty? Okay, so that is the background. So let's get to making this card. I'm wearing navy blue sweater for the navy blue card. I love navy. Okay, nothing else needs to be done. No ribbon needs to be wrapped around, so I'm going to put some dimensionals on here. Good. And set this in place. Okay, so now this paper here, I'm going to run through the stitch shape oval. Okay, you hear the Big Shot? Hear me cranking it? There it is. Okay, and because I'm going to be attaching this oval to the center of the paper here, and because there's so much texture, if I use just my regular snail adhesive, the adhesive would just be attaching itself to the high points, which isn't that much connection. So I'm going to use tear and tape, Stampin' Up, and I put on 3 strips. Ooh, the back of this paper is pretty too. The whole product suite is beautiful. Okay, I thought I saw a little bit. Make sure my words are going the right direction. Don't want upside down words. Okay, that's done. So now the flower, I will stamp the flower, and because I'm going to use the blends to color it, I'm going to stamp it in Memento ink. You know how I like to put something behind so you could see. Also, then I could see the borders of the paper so I don't stamp the flower halfway off the paper. Look how pretty this is. I'm going to shift the bottom over a little bit so I could get one more flower out of this paper. Gotta be frugal. Ooh, look at that. Isn't that pretty? And this is the one we did yesterday using the white embossing powder. Very different looks. Okay, so now I will line up this. I'm going to look at this leaf tip and then the bottom. And once those are in order, oop, I have tape over it. Okay, I will look at this tip in here. But once those are where they should be, I'll use my washi tape to stick it down. Okay, you know big shot is coming. Then you know I'm going to color it, right? Voila, look at that. Isn't that pretty? So these are the colors I used, and I'll list them on my blog. I used apple, granny apple green, light and dark, petal pink, light and dark, granite gray, light and dark. I use that for the stem. And then I used the lifter just to soften up the flowers a bit. Okay. So now we have a flower to put on here. Dimensionals. How many dimensionals do I need? A few people said that I should not be providing them for class. That should be part of adhesive, but I do. I guess that right there is a prime example why I shouldn't. Some people are excessive. And this one I put right here. Excuse me. Should I do this one different? No. Should I do it this way? No, I already put the words on. I don't know why I feel so inclined to do stuff different. Okay, now to put this on, just a minute, I have a tickle. Okay. What glue? This glue. Okay, now it's all better. I was trying to stifle it and it wasn't working. Okay, so there's a swoosh. And I just need to hold that down. Here, Memento, help me out. Put the glue away. Maybe. Should put my glasses on. Okay, so the inside, I'm going to have that just sit for a minute so it'll hold the swoosh down. The inside is very simple. Cherish every moment of this day. And I'm going to stamp this little flower that's in the set. Oh, that one fell off. I'll show you here. I was going to use this one, but the leaves were a little bit too far out. And I masked this one because see how nicely the leaves sit back behind it? So I'll show you a bit about that. So cherish every moment. Let me start there. That is done in navy ink. When I put my stamps on blocks, I like the block to be a little bit bigger so I can see the perimeter of the paper. I'm going to put it here so we all could see a little bit better. Ink it again just to make sure. Because if you can't see the outside edge of the paper, white on white, you're not going to get it straight. Okay. And now to stamp the flower, I'm going to do it in Memento ink because I want to color it in. And I'm going to do the leaves, and instead of the double leaf, instead of this one, I'm going to use a bunch of that one to make this. And I have one already started. And I didn't color it light blue, bright blue. That's Post-it color. So I put a Post-it right over my colored flower so I could stamp the leaves really close. I don't want the leaf stem going into the flower, so I'm going to mask the flower and put some leaves on here. That turned out good. This one I think I want a little closer this time. Oop, I was about to do it upside down. Oh, that turned out nice. Okay, so see how those are stamped right where they should be. When I pull this off, look how perfect that is. I probably could have pushed a little harder or made the mask smaller so I wouldn't have this gap. But that's okay. If I color it in, human eye is awesome. So I will do coloring using the Granny Apple Green. And you've probably already seen it, but I've made a video last year coloring with the blends. And if you have blends, or if you have them and your finished product isn't what you wish it to be, watch the video because it has a lot of good points in it. I start with the darker color. And not that the video is, that's how you do it. That's just how I've had success. And I'm happy with how it comes out. Doing a second layer of color. Okay, so that was Granny Apple Dark. And here's Granny Apple Light. I like the small tip. Okay, so the leaves they're done. Perfect. Now I will put this on the inside of the card. Oh, what did I get on there? Not sure what that is. That's no fair. I haven't been messy. Okay, carry on. So the next part is the words, and then that's it. So to do the words, well, you know what? I feel that there's texture on here. So when I did them originally, I thought, well, hey, I'm using the Whisper White craft ink for the embossing folder. And I stamped the words in Whisper White ink. And then I put it into the silver embossing powder, and that worked fine. The craft ink works well because it's sticky, it's pigment ink, and it will hold the powder. But when I looked at it close, it looked a little blobby. Does that make sense? Is that a word? So I ended up using Versamark. And you know, Versamark, I like the difference. I'll show you here in just a minute. And the only difference really is this ink. This might have more ink on it, and this might be a little bit drier, so the image is crisper. But both of them will work. with any color embossing powder. So say you have white embossing powder or any metallic. So this is the difference in the white ink versus the Versamark. Not much difference at all. But some of them, they came out really messy. So here you could tell a little bit on the word friend. Okay, so back on task. On here, I will stamp in Versamark. I determined this time that to be best. And you mean so much to me. Ooh, that looks like it has blue ink on it. Hold on. Another thing, your Versamark stamp pad is known for, see how lovely and well loved mine is? That's because I thought it was cleaned. I cleaned it. If there's any hint of ink, the Versamark ink kind of acts as a solvent and it gets all the ink out, which is great for your look of your stamp, but look what it does to your pad. But this one is like 10 years old, so, and it works just as well. If I were to stamp this on here, it still comes out as clear ink, so it's working just fine. Okay, so on here, I will stamp, you mean the world to me. Good. And then, let me check friend too. That's fine. And then over here, and I know when you look at this, it's like, oh, I can't see the ink. It'll make the navy paper just a bit darker. And then I'll put it in the silver powder. And yes, this is like 5 containers of silver powder. Boy, I should have done my embossing buddy. Oh, there it goes. And I'm going to trim this so a lot of the over powder will come off. Okay, there it is. So now I will use my heat tool to kind of cook it. Normally I do embossing powder, I do it on a separate page because I get all those little granules which drive me crazy. But okay, so pretend heat tool. And once you have the powder on, there's no rush, like within 5 or 10 minutes to get it heated. But from the time that you stamp it to the time you get the powder on, that's where it matters because you don't want the ink to dry. Okay, so I stamped these, used the heat tool, and then I attached them to my little strip of petal pink. And now, I was going to do scissors, but I like it to be perfectly square, so I'm going to use my little paper cutter down here. Everyone has a little paper cutter, right? There it is! Very tiny. Hope I might have cut one end closer than the other. I might have to tune that up a little bit. Okay, there's a leftover. This, that. So the petal pink, it looks like it's bigger here, bigger here. Let me trim it just a bit. Oh, that's better. Okay, same with this one. Okay. Very good. Okay, now dimensionals. I think this card looks fancy because of the swoosh and because of that background. So I was about to put 2 dimensionals on here, but as I look at this, the flower's already on dimensional, so I'm going to put 1 dimensional on the underside here, and then right there I'll use regular adhesive. Otherwise, it would be climbing up a mountain. Alrighty. So, off with the paper. And on with the words. You mean so much to me, friend. Oh, maybe I'll tuck this one right underneath the swoosh. Maybe. Look at that. And I could put more glue underneath here, but I kind of like it. Isn't that pretty? Thank you, Pretty Paper Cards, for sharing this lovely design. I like it. And the inside. Okay, so that is this navy Forever Blossoms card. You want to see what's for tomorrow? Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? And where did I find this one? I have it written down somewhere. Once again, it's on Pinterest. But we will make this card tomorrow. Oh, I love it. The ribbon. Okay, hope you have a great day. I will list all the products on my blog. And thanks for tuning in. Give me a thumbs up, a like, and subscribe. I'd appreciate it. Okay, bye.